This Earth Day, we shine the light on green architecture, paying homage to internationally acclaimed Filipino architect Francisco Bobby Mañosa. Long before green architecture was a buzzword, Mañosa was incorporating environmentally friendly principles into his designs since he established Mañosa and Company 4 decades ago, encouraging Filipinos to build and design structures with respect to nature. He was one of the first architects to promote the use of indigenous materials like bamboo, rattan, and coconut. Mañosa is renowned for adopting the eco-friendly elements of the bahay kubo and bahay na bato into his projects. He has received many accolades here and abroad, among them the Papal Knighthood of the Pontifical Order of St. Gregory the Great at the Vatican City. In 1982, he was named by Asia Week magazine as one of the 7 visionary architects of Asia.
These are the different people.
85-year-old Bobby Mañosa retired several years ago for health reasons. His legacy burns bright through his children. The eldest, Bambi, leads interior design and Tukod Foundation, the company's non-profit arm. Dino heads the company's property development arm, Mañosa Properties, and Angelo is CEO of the architectural firm. We catch up with the Mañosa children at the Bahay Kubo home their father built in Alabang, where they grew up. They talk about being raised by a visionary artist, pushing the boundaries of modern Filipino architecture and incorporating technological innovations, and keeping their father's legacy alive. Tell us about growing up in this house. So you're about 9, 10 years old when you guys moved here. What was it like for you guys growing up?
So we moved here. We were one of the few residences who moved in. It was a huge playground for us. We had to rent for a year while the house was being built. So on a weekly basis, Dad and Mom would take us over to the house to see the construction, right? So it was very exciting for us. Once the house was built, everybody knew everybody, right? So that was a nice thing.
Small. We were a really
Super
small community
yeah.
at the time. And then even as the village was being built, the construction site of the village was one giant playground for us.
Yeah.
Walking into the projects was always a nice thrill because it always felt different. Each project had its own unique sense. So for some reason, growing up, we always felt like we owned the project. To say the Coconut Palace, when it was still being built, when we went into the room of then Ferdinand Marcos, President Marcos, we looked at him. It's like, wow, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be my room. And then there was like an Igorot room, and Dino was looking at it and saying, okay, this will be my room. So we were like choosing which rooms were going to be ours, and there was a gym there, and we thought, okay, we're going to have a gym in our house, and we just felt like it was really part of who we were and part of ownership as well.
I was 10 years old when that project happened, but I remember walking through its doors, helping my parents bring the items in, setting up, and maybe that's why I liked interior design. Maybe because my dad would take me all the time to set up the final stages of the project, and he would ask me to, as simple as, hand me the jar, let's put it up, hand me this, let's fix this, why is this one better than this? He was a natural teacher.
Your dad was really the first when environmental green architecture wasn't even a buzzword yet. He was already starting that.
Yeah. Green architecture wasn't. They would call it environmental architecture, back then. But it. Well, he always had a philosophy of designing Filipino, and when you look at the typical bahay kubo, that was pretty much the fundamentals of how he would see architecture, and then interpret it in a more modern or contemporary way. But the same fundamentals of what makes a bahay kubo a very climate-conscious structure are the same fundamentals that were carried on.
Have you ever thought of changing up, maybe looking into other kinds of designs?
We have our strategic planning session every year, and that's always brought up as opportunities, what we can do. And it always ends up as, it's just not us, right? It's something that is inside you, doesn't feel good, you just can't do it. It's really a value, a core value. And many times you'll have executives who will challenge you and say, why not? But in the end, we say, it's not about money. I think we're proud of what we're doing.
Gelo takes us on a tour of his home, a marvel of green design and sustainable innovation.
A couple of things that we looked at. One was basic orientation, wind orientation, as well as sun orientation, which were two key elements. No? What you see here is the entrance to the house, but it's also a squeeze point. Now, a squeeze point is typically like a little wind catcher. So we try to capture a large volume of air, and then we squeeze it into the main entrance of the door for better air velocity, and that allows to push the breezes into the house. The finial that you find on the roof is actually a trademark that we do in all our designs. So all Mañosa designs have a finial. One of the things that you'll also find, another element, is the tukod, which is the same support used in the windows of a bahay kubo. Tukod is because we tend to extend the eave lines of all our roofs. So when the eave line is really long, then the tukod is placed. The stone that you see here all came from the property. So during excavation, we found that we were sitting on a giant adobe stone. And so a lot of the stone that we recovered, we got an igorot from Baguio to come in, and he started to do me all the stonework. So all the stonework that you see on the house, well, carbon footprint wise is practically zero because it came from the property. No? As you enter, this is my dining room. Usually, you don't come into the house and have the dining room right away, but this is the way we chose to do it. On an energy conservation standpoint, this was our preference. Why? Because we did not want to have our living dining connected, so that if we were not entertaining anybody here, we could close up the dining room. This I call my rattan room. I call it my rattan room because we've used rattan quite extensively on the walls, on the furniture, because we wanted to try and use as much indigenous materials as we could. Local is always better. We had like a palm tabletop done. We played with cocoa inlays, things which are really local to the country. We have a fan that's running, a mechanical fan, and what that does is it helps push the air out down the corridor or down into my kitchen, and then there's a second fan that sucks the air out, and I get a full air exchange in less than 2 minutes. The living room itself, we looked into a nice cozy area where we could congregate as a family, where we felt more like we were in a resort than we were in an actual house. So this is my kitchen. The kitchen has to be a little bit greener. So one of the first things we looked at were Energy Star rated appliances. So all the appliances actually use low wattage energy, which was a key factor. We also brought in some recycled materials, such as old balustrades, which came from a client's house, and antibacterial countertops. We did a modern take, a modern interpretation of the bahay kubo bangirahan, which we still feel is the most efficient way. You stack your dishes, you wash, and you stack, as opposed to taking your dishes, washing, and then stacking. So in this way, you end up having one countertop clean. We recycle 73% of all the water we use. So water that comes from the lavatory drain, aircon drains, shower drains, and the gutter system goes into my gray water tank, and then from here it feeds the tap points in my garden. This is actually the only real hardwood that we have in the house. It uses teak wood, but it's recycled teak. The handrail we have here as well is done in rattan. And if you see the little nodes here, these are many strands of rattan which were put together and then sanded down to be made into one piece of wood. No? So one of the things we incorporated is capiz lighting. We just wanted to bring back the aura of Philippine design, and we also put in an old kabay na bato design from the top, which you find in many old ancestral homes.
With green architecture, it's so much a part of your work because it was very much really part of the philosophy. So you naturally include that in your designs.
We naturally include it in our designs, whether they look for it or not. It's something that we just do. Like climate conscious design really came, for me at least, as a formality through studies. But it's always been something that the firm has done for many years. Now we start focusing on the benefits of green architecture and why it's important to go that route. And that's really easy to explain. It's a lot easier to explain that than to explain to them why you have to go, contemporary Philippine design, This is my son's nursery. He's now 4 years old. His name's Santiago. And we wanted to be a bit more energy conscious as well, so we started putting in LED lights. We played with paints, which are what you call low VOC paints, or paints with low volatile organic compounds. So this is my daughter's room. She's my 7-year-old. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to right-size the room as well. So if you notice Santiago's room as well, so we make the chairs smaller, the tables smaller, the bed smaller, just so they have that aspect of ownership. But again, same things. We played with rattan cabinets. We played with low VOC paint, so no harmful elements. This is the master's bedroom. Again, we continued with bamboo on the flooring. So for the master's bedroom, one of the things that we looked into was to play with bamboo and rattan for the ceilings. Again, low VOC paints. We started looking into abaca wallpapers as well, and partly recycled carpets. The carpet carries 30% recycled materials. Now, one of the things that we looked, and this is very, very Pinoy, is the awning type window, And then pretty much what we did, just like the bahay kubo, the eave line pretty much drops to the horizon level. It blocks the sun, and the sun doesn't come in to my room. And then we do the awning type window so that during rainy season and during the summer, you can open your windows and you can get your breezes coming in. And that also allows for better air filtration as it comes into your room and it reaches your bed, and you can actually feel the breezes.
For the real estate, for example, when you see these huge developers that do cookie cutter kind of things, and your dad was very much against that. He wanted it to really work with the environment. How are your developments different from the other one?
When we started this about 6 years ago, that was, so I explained to Dad and said, let's get into real estate, but let's stick to what the architects want, right? What you guys want, because exactly what's out there is cookie cutter, right? And the whole point of the group is we want to inspire people to appreciate Philippine design and architecture, right? That's really why we get up every day to do what we do. When we benchmark against other real estate companies, we definitely don't make the same profits because a lot of it goes into the cost of the house. The design, the details, the materials we use are very different, right? And for us, it's okay. I mean, it's not a money-making scheme. I mean, it's something bigger than, again, ourselves, right? So that's been very exciting for us. Most of our projects seem to be heritage projects. They come from landowners who want to do something with their property, are emotionally attached to it, but want something that they can be proud of.
This is going to my living room. So one of the things that we looked into was separating the dining and the living. So we looked at the exterior of the house just as important part as the interior of the house. You get typically the sound of the water, the running water. Now the boulders you see here, the tree you see here, were all part of the property. So the house was designed around it and making it as part of a feature. The living room itself, we looked into a nice cozy area where we could congregate as a family. So what was important were the view corridors, looking at all three sides of the living room that we wanted to see, like a garden setting, where we felt more like we were in a resort than we were in an actual house. So we continued the rattan feel on the wall. We did a nice mural by Michael Cacnio, who's a good friend of mine, and he did this mural for us. And we wanted to keep this very Pinoy as well. So again, the same idea of the stack effect, where we pick up cool air from the bottom, and we put hot air out. So we allow for transom windows to open all around, and that's how we get the hot air out.
One of my favorite projects is the one we just finished, the child protection unit at PGH. I think there was so much heart and soul that went into it.
The TV room is where the family congregates. We have several ways on how we play with the TV room. This is kind of how we tend to have it configured, the couch. It can become a bed this way as well. If we want to entertain some guests, what we do is we pull out a mattress like this, and I prop up my table like this. And now it becomes a place to entertain. If we're a bigger group, then we can spread these apart and separate them, and now we can entertain a larger group. But it's a pretty versatile space.
Now, of course, second generation, how do you feel about the kids? Do you see any of them showing interest? Do you hope to pass this on to your own kids?
My daughter, Andy, is a bit of an artist in her own right, and so are Bambi's kids and Dino's kids. She loves music. She's won her first award for her first international art award, actually. She won first place a couple of years ago. So she actually has the knack for drawing and building. My son, Santiago, 4 years old, still too early. I don't know what he has planned.
So I have 3 children. Sabina, who's already 21, Ateneo. When she was entering college, she applied for architecture, accepted in all the schools. And I was telling her, wow, you're going to do it? Last minute, she says, no, I want to take up business, Pop. So I said, why? Why do you want to do business? You're already there. Take it up for a year. And it was nice. She said, Pop, if you weren't around to put the business part together, then there would be no Mañosa Group as a group, right? So she said, you need somebody like me to run things one day. So my other son is a musician. He loves music, my younger. The youngest one, Basti, is the one who really wants to take up architecture. I mean, his mind, so he was like Gelo growing up, always playing with blocks, always designing, always trying to, right? So I said, okay, so this is my architect who's gonna follow right in the footsteps.
You're confident. There you are. You've got your heirs.
Well, the one thing I can say about the third generation Mañosas, which didn't come out so naturally with us, but with them, is their love for country. If you talk to them, they're forever going back to, I'm a proud Filipino. I'm here to do good for the country. I'm here to give back, and so that's a common thing among them that I think we're all very proud of.
The Mañosa Group of Companies founded a corporate social responsibility arm in 2000, Tukod Foundation.
To give a sense of place to the underprivileged, because I think if you fix the environment, you fix the attitude of the person. You give them sense of pride, you give them dignity. A good environment, I think, somehow it does a lot to a person's soul and it uplifts the spirit, and that's what we want to do. One of my favorite projects is the one we just finished, the child protection unit at PGH. It's a very simple, small project, but I think there was so much heart and soul that went into it, because when I saw it before, it's a center where all these abused kids are directed to, where they get help, they get checked, they get therapy, and just entering that place, and I was seeing it, and I saw how everything was like falling apart. What I did was I got children involved. I got teenagers and kids involved from the Kids for Kids group, and they came and they gave all their art for free. It's just something that I enjoy doing, and maybe because it was so natural for my dad and my mom as well to do things like this, to help out, and I think that's where I like helping out, and I think that's why they plucked me and they said, okay, you help out here also in the foundation.
In August, you'll be celebrating your 40th anniversary. Mañosa Architects will be on
Yes.
its 40th. What are the plans? I'm sure it's a big tribute or celebration
That's
for your
right.
dad.
So Bambi spearheading that. We're doing a whole exhibit. I think it's a 2-week exhibit. Somewhere central in Makati. We don't know where, but we want to open it up definitely to students. Dad's always said that's my barangay, the student tree, because they're the ones who are hungry for knowledge, right? Aside from the last 40 years, is in architecture, we want to show what he has done as a man, right? So a little of his music. He was a successful musician in his own right, a toy designer. So imagine the early 70s. It was already called Bobby Toys, and their subtitle was Environmental Toys, because these were lead-free toys, made out of wood, and which at the time there was no such thing as lead-free paint.
This year, the Philippines will be participating in the Venice Architecture Biennale for the first time, showcasing the country's top architects and contemporary artists, among them Mañosa and Company.
Fortunately, we were one of the 9 chosen by Andy Locsin, who is the curator for the Venice Architecture Biennale, to represent the Philippines in Venice next month in May. And it is something that has brought a lot of pride also in our company.
What do you think the secret is behind the whole Mañosa dynamic? What keeps you guys on this path to success?
To inspire by showcasing the best of design in Filipino. That's really what we want to do. And we teach it to our people. We make sure that we're all aligned with that.
But you know, for me, one thing that is key, at least for the dynamics of the 3 of us, is the relationship as well that we have with each other. We really have good synergy and a good relationship amongst each other. You know, if we fight, we talk about it. We get together. We discuss. If we agree, then we celebrate together, and we, you know, have drinks together. But I think the synergy really is a mutual respect amongst each other, and being able to communicate, you know, effectively. There's so many things to be proud about, and if architecture's our way of showing it, or real estate's our way of showing it, then so be it. But at least you've done your part in trying to uplift, you know, the standards of how Filipinos see themselves.
In fact, there's that famous saying, right? Mass follows class. That's a popular one. And so on our end, that's where we feel our responsibility is, where we say, because we've been asked that, why do you guys only design for the rich, and why don't you do? So we said, we'll get there soon, but if we have enough clientele that the masses look up and say, wow, that's a Filipino home, and I'm proud to live in a Filipino home. I mean, that would be really our overall vision.
Well said, and really we are getting that from all of you. Thank you for all you do, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Inviting me.